Hello, folks. It's me again, Amanda Enderman, your trusty tour guide in the wonders of the wonderful city, also known as Rio de Janeiro. And on this video, I'm bringing you a topic, yet another topic of the Random Topic series. And this time, I know for a fact that it's something that especially foreign tourists love to know about. And I know this for a fact because in the past 6 years that I've been actually actively working as a tour guide, I have lost count of the number of times that tourists have asked me questions about this topic, which is the Mosaic Sidewalks of Rio. Yes, you know, the ones in Copacabana, the ones in Ipanema, with the wave design or abstract design and all that, with those small stones, those small cobblestones, I should say. And everyone wonders, oh, but why put such small stones? You know, why this drawing? Why not some other drawing? Where did the idea come from? And all of that and all. Well, I'm bringing you this on this very video. So without further ado, let's hop on to the theme of the video, shall we? So let me share my screen with you real quick. There we go. So, of course, I'm starting back in colonial times. And you see, folks, back in colonial times, we paved roads, of course, just like people have been paving roads, you know, ever since ancient Rome, you know, ever since those ancient Romans had the idea of, you know, paving roads to make them, you know, prettier and easier to walk on. But as you can see, this type of pavement is quite irregular. You know, the stones are not all the same size. They're not even level. Some of them are like this. Some of them are like this. Some of them are, you know, diagonal. So where did we get this from, and why once again small stones instead of just making, you know, large square stones and putting them next to one another? Well, this is because these stones came in the ships with the Portuguese explorers. Yes, it was kind of an accessory that it was actually very much needed, because you see, the Portuguese would use these stones to put in the bottom of the ship so that it would stabilize the ship, because you see, well, the ocean has something which we call waves, and especially, you know, in storms and such, if you don't have something to weigh down the ship, you're gonna end up like that Goofy cartoon, you know, that old Mickey Mouse cartoon where he and Goofy and Donald, I believe, are on a ship, and then it shows Goofy like, you know, like all like this and such. So this is what happens if you don't have something to stabilize the boat, and they would use stones such as these to do so. But you see, when they went back to Portugal, they didn't need the stones anymore, because of course they had those lovely products, those lovely exports that we brought, such as, you know, sugar cane, such as Brazil wood, such as gold, which I do speak about in my videos entitled Making a Buck in Rio Part 1 and Part 2, which I will leave the links for you up here. But you see, with the end of colonial times, you know, oh, and by the way, before I get to with the end of colonial times, just one piece of advice for you as a tour guide. These type of streets, they still exist in the historic cities of Minas and in Paraty. And I highly recommend that you do go there. But if you do go there, please, for all that is holy, wear comfortable shoes. And even if you're doing so, pray that your foot doesn't end up where the stone does this. You know, because when a point of the stone hits like the middle of your foot, it's like a knife is going up there. Oh, and ladies, avoid high-heeled shoes, especially if the heels, you know, are thin, because this type of street can be very unforgiving in that sense. Moving on, once colonial times were done, once Brazil got its independence from Portugal and all of that, there wasn't much change in imperial Brazil, I should say, except for the streets, that the stones became bigger and more level. So See already people's feet breathing a sigh of relief, right? Because as you can see, the stones are finally level. As you can see in this place, which is the Valongo dock, more specifically this level of the Valongo dock, which was when Dom Pedro II embellished the dock for a very special occasion in his life, a very romantic one, I should say, which I will leave the link for you as well of the video here where I talk about what occasion it was, but I'm not gonna say it in this video. You're gonna have to see the video of the link for you to know. So, but as you can see, nothing much changed during Imperial Brazil, and it was only with Pereira Passos that the drawings became a thing here in Rio. The actual mosaic drawings in the pavement. Well, the thing is that this was back in 1902. So in 1902, Pereira Passos was nominated as the mayor of Rio by the president Rodrigues Alves. Yes, folks, this was the time when presidents would nominate mayors and state governors as well, or back in the time of the empire, province presidents. Can you imagine that? Imagine if it was like that to this day. So the thing is that Rio was the capital of Rio at this point as well, and Rodrigues Alves thought that Rio needed to look the part, to look like a modern Republican capital. So he tasked Pereira Passos with the task of urbanizing Rio. And it wasn't only a matter of appearance, because you see, at this time, Rio had a lot of flop houses in its downtown area. And those were big manors from colonial times that were abandoned by their masters with the end of slavery, because, it's very hard to keep those big mansions if you don't have an army of servants or an army of slaves in the case of colonial and imperial Brazil. So the poor families occupied these houses, living each family to a room, and bathrooms and kitchens were shared. So you can imagine precarious hygiene, precarious everything. So the mayor, Pereira Passos, wanted to do away with that, because also Rio was known as the city of death, because of the many diseases that took over the city every summer. And he thought that the flop houses were to blame for this. And in reurbanizing Rio, apart from tearing down the flop houses, which unfortunately he went down in history as the tear down mayor, so he decided to also embellish the downtown area of Rio by following what Haussmann was doing in Paris, which he got to see in a backpacking trip that he had done through Europe a short time before. So then he basically redid Rio inspired by Paris. So this is why you can see the Municipal Theater over here, which is inspired by the Opéra in Paris. You can see the National Museum of Fine Arts over here, which is inspired by the Louvre in Paris, and the mosaics over here, as you can see, which in this case look like sort of a rug, a carpet that has been placed. And you have masks over here, like theatrical masks, of course, tying in with the theme of theater. So the fact of the matter is that he got the inspiration for doing drawings in the first place from this place over here, which is the Rocio Square in Portugal. Yes, this over here, folks, is the, or I should say, this over here, better yet, right? This over here is the original Mosaic Sidewalk. This was done in 1848, and the inspiration behind the drawing of waves is to symbolize the meeting of the Tejo River, which cuts through the city of Lisbon and the Atlantic Ocean. So Pereira Passos got this idea, copied it, and brought it here. Though he didn't put it in the downtown area of Rio, mainly because even though he was reurbanizing the downtown area, but his idea was to also change the way that people saw living in Rio. Where was it a good place to live? He wanted to change that concept, in fact, because his idea, just as Haussmann did in Paris, the downtown area would no longer be a place for living. It would be a place for working and decision making. And the South Zone, which is where neighborhoods like Copacabana, Ipanema, and Leblon are, would be for the wealthy, and the North Zone would be for the poor. Okay, and the reason why I'm putting quotations in this very clearly is because, fortunately, emphasis on the fortunately, this didn't stick, this division of rich and poor, thank heavens. Not everyone that lives in the South Zone is rich, and not everyone that lives in the North Zone is poor. So keep that in mind when you're in Rio, definitely. But on the other hand, the fact of the downtown area being a place for working and decision making and no longer for living, that stuck. Well, at least up until the pandemic. You see, because as you can see, there are buildings, yes, over here, but they're all office buildings. In fact, the downtown area of Rio is quite a big stretch of land. It comprises everything between the stations of Cinelândia, Carioca, Uruguaiana, Presidente Vargas, and Central. All of that is the downtown area. And when you're here in Rio, you're going to see a lot of buildings all over the downtown area, all over Rio, as a matter of fact. But the ones in the downtown area, they're all office buildings. So you can imagine, with everyone, with the pandemic, with everyone working from home, the office buildings became abandoned. So the downtown area itself became abandoned because, well, already, ever since 1902, by the way, or ever since it's actually stuck, if you went to the downtown area on a weekend or even after business hours, it would be empty. Seriously, it would be like one of those old Western movies, where the hay ball, where the city is all empty, and then the hay ball starts rolling. It's exactly like that. It would be exactly that, only missing the hay balls. So imagine, with everyone from Monday to Friday and during business hours, which in Brazil is normally from 9 to 6, working from home. But of course, now that people are slowly returning from working from home, they are also having incentives in the form of low price rates and etc. for people to actually live in the downtown area. So we shall see if perhaps in the future I'm going to be telling you that, after 2021, the downtown area finally became a place for living again, and not just working and decision making. We shall see. So moving on, since Pereira Passos was promoting the South Zone as a place for the wealthy to live in, he of course had to embellish the rest of the South Zone as well. And that started with Copacabana, of course, because you see, the thing with Copacabana that probably most of you are unaware of, at least those of you who have never been to Rio, is that Copacabana, until the end of the 19th century, it was a neighborhood that no one wanted to live in Rio. No one was interested in living in Copacabana, simply because, well, naturally, it's very isolated. It's surrounded by mountains. So it was very hard to get there in the first place. And it wasn't until 1902 that the very first trolley came to Copacabana with the urbanization of Pereira Passos. It wasn't until then. So then, with that, he started promoting Ipanema as, look, elites, here is a place for you to live in. It's all embellished. It has even a Mosaic Sidewalk and all of that. However, Copacabana did not become a famous neighborhood the world over until the building of the Copacabana Palace, which is this hotel in the 1920s. And even more so in 1933 with the launching of the movie Flying Down to Rio. But of course, in this video, I'm just breezing through all of these topics, but I am going to talk about this in a lot more detail eventually when I get there in the other series in this channel, which is called Rio the History. So stay tuned for that. All right, and I will leave the link for you of this series as well, because there are plenty of videos for you to watch there as well if you would like, and I hope you do. But probably you're also looking at this and saying, well, Amanda, but I've been to Rio, and Copacabana was different. I saw the waves are a bit different. What's up with that? So probably you saw this drawing over here, right? So this is because in the 1970s, Bule Marx, which also was the landscape artist who planned and designed the Flamengo Park, he enlarged the sand space in Copacabana because, as you can see, originally there wasn't a lot of sand space over here, of walking space, I should say. So he enlarged this, and with this, he enlarged the waves as well. He changed the wave design a tad bit, but still following the wave design of Pereira Passos, naturally, because Copacabana at this point was already known for the wave design. And it's interesting also to note with this wave design that we got sort of a payback, don't you think, from the Portuguese taking all of our good stuff, once again, such as Brazil wood and sugarcane and gold and all of that. So it was kind of a payback because even though the original was the Rocio Square, which is this square over here, nobody nowadays, when they think of wave design, even remembers the Rocio Square. Well, maybe the Portuguese, but other than that, nobody. Everybody thinks that the wave design is original of Copacabana. Go figure. What goes around comes around, right? Moving on to the next neighborhood after Copacabana, and literally because this neighborhood that I'm going to talk about now is Copacabana's next door neighbor, which is Ipanema. So the thing with Ipanema is that just like Copacabana, until Pereira Passos came along, nobody was interested in living there and all of that. So Copacabana was founded in the late 1800s as the Villa Ipanema, and the men who founded it got the permission for it to be an official neighborhood and all of that, and for it to be divided into lots and properties as well. But it was only after 1902, shortly after 1902, that the first cable car came to Ipanema as well. So once again, same story as Copacabana. However, Ipanema only became famous after Copacabana became famous, because the reason why Ipanema, became famous was because of Bossa Nova. Because even though Bossa Nova was born in Copacabana, ironically, a lot of the Bossa Nova songs were about Ipanema, such as, yes, the song that most of you know, The Girl from Ipanema, yes, but other songs as well. So that made Ipanema famous in the 1950s when Bossa Nova came along. So in the 1960s, the landscape artist Renato Primavera Marinho designed, of course, a mosaic drawing for the sidewalk of Ipanema as well. Why not? It's becoming famous and it's a trendsetter. Oh, and by the way, speaking of trendsetters, I forgot to mention, even though not everyone that lives in the South Zone is necessarily rich, the South Zone really is the trend-setting area of Rio. It really is the trendsetter, the designer neighborhood of Rio, what have you. It is very much the difference between having, a regular shirt or regular bag or regular clothes and having designer clothes. It does carry with it that status symbol as well to this day. So moving on, the next neighborhood to be given a Mosaic Sidewalk were actually the neighborhoods of the West Zone, which the most famous of them is Barra da Tijuca, and it was given the design of abstract fish. As you can see, the neighborhoods were given. So, and this was thought of by the mayor of Rio in the 1980s, Marcelo Alencar, because prior to that, in the 1970s, was when the urbanization plan for this area of the city began. So as you can see, it's an even more isolated place from the rest of Rio. So once again, no one wanted to live there because it was too isolated from everything, from the downtown area, from the rest of Rio, and all of that. Just so you can have an idea, the subway system only got here in 2016. And even now, it doesn't cover all of these neighborhoods. So as you can see how isolated it is. And only in 1970 was there an urbanization project to begin with. And it was not until the 1990s that people started wanting to live in Barra, mind you. So folks, This is it for today. I hope you liked the video. And if you did like the video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the button like, hit the button subscribe, then hit the notification bell so that you can always be notified whenever a new video comes along in this channel. And most importantly of all, share this video with as many people as you possibly can so that each time more people may know of the wonders of the wonderful city. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.